Welcome to the College of Education 10-Minute Research Break, a podcast devoted to highlighting research by Illinois State University's College of Education, faculty, staff, and students. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and take a break with us.
Hello, I'm Tricia Klass, the host. Today's guest is Dr. Maureen Angell, Chair and Professor of the Special Education Department. We're going to talk about a recent article about the perceptions of college students with learning disabilities and their perceptions of faculty, classroom accommodations. This is a timely topic because we're beginning our new academic year. Well, welcome, Maureen.
Thank you.
And find why you and your co-authors chose critical pedagogy to examine the students' perspectives of instruction and classroom accommodation. What advantage does this lens give you in looking at this issue?
Sure. Well, critical pedagogy theory is grounded in social justice, and of course that's very much related to individuals with disabilities. It supports the accommodation of differences in learning environments, and it allows space for transformation of learning environments so that students feel free to learn and unlearn and to challenge some of the socio-political status quo and feel free to really learn in that environment. Well, we found that in the literature there are many critical pedagogy approaches that have really empowered and enabled students with disabilities and other students in other areas, the areas of sexuality, gender, race, language, and they have really done well in terms of empowering these students, but we did not find any critical pedagogy theorists who actually applied that theory to accommodating differences with people with disabilities. So we thought, well, let's try to explore that area, and we thought the best people to help us explore that would be our college students. So that's where we went. We were very much into or aware of disability rights laws. We realized that instructors are bound by those laws once a student discloses disability, but it's the responsibility of the student, but then once the student discloses, it really is incumbent upon the instructors to accommodate. So in order to support those claims that we have, we figured we would look at critical pedagogy, ask our students about it, and return to that theory so that we could understand to what extent they're really developing this theory. They're developing learning environments that will accommodate all students, and where we might need to grow. And we wanted to look at those kinds of learning environments for people with and without disabilities. So it was an advantage because it was really couched in that whole theory of social justice.
That's good, and that leads to as you were saying, how it opens up the idea of accommodations, because you actually know three types of accommodations: non-accommodation, what you call formal accommodation, and accommodation for all. And I think non-accommodation is pretty clear, but can you describe the wide range of behaviors that are within the formal accommodation definition? Because when I read that, I was surprised by some of that.
Okay, sure. There is a range, and I should probably mention first a couple of examples of formal accommodations. The use of readers, e-texts, note takers, extra time, those are the common things that we're aware of. Or maybe even alternate text formats for tests or textbooks. And academic accommodations in the formal sense are really on an individual basis. Usually an Office of Disability Concerns like ours will determine what those reasonable accommodations are. They will note them and for the student and provide them, but then it's up to the instructor to actually make it happen. So the range is really, you asked about the range, Tricia, it does vary within even formal accommodation. We have those kinds of perfunctory statements that are at the bottom of our syllabi, usually the last thing on the syllabus, that say, you do have, if you have a disability, see the Office of Disability Concerns when you give the contact information. That's the low range, the low end of the range. We can go a little bit further in that range and say, okay, if you do have an identified disability, please see the instructor, and the instructor will work with you to make those accommodations happen. That's a little bit better. Then, even within formal accommodations, we have the instructors who take the time and the opportunities to learn more about their students and find out from the students themselves what they need in terms of those accommodations. Okay, so they say that you need more time. How are we going to make that work to give you more time to take the test? Or you need to sit closer to the front of the room. Let's see what's going to be most comfortable for you. To have that conversation. So that's still within formal accommodations, where the instructors have to recognize their obligations, but we also have a little bit of leeway because instructors really do, within that range, can choose to accommodate or not suitably or appropriately. So in these mandates for formal accommodation, there is that free choice of the instructor to accommodate or not, but they're really constrained by the law. So it's really up to them to follow policy and law to change their behaviors, and that's that other end of the best end of the formal accommodations range.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, and that's one of the things what surprised me also was the idea from a critical pedagogy perspective, however. They brought up unexpected problems with formal accommodation and how some of these faculty in this study did provide them.
Yes, and there are inherent problems in providing formal accommodations, and we've seen that happen over the years. What we have to remember is that the disclosure of disability is really a relational event. It's something that happens between, well, the student and the institution first, and then the student and the instructor. And if the instructor doesn't accept that very well, let's put it that way, it may take its toll on that instructor-student relationship. So that's a bottom line, underlying problem. The other is that disclosing disability is an identity marker, and so students will know that they're known. So they have to very freely choose to disclose. What happens sometimes with formal accommodation is that instructors in goodwill and with good intentions will single out students. They might say it publicly. You know, I know you need to sit up here. I know you need, or run after them when they leave a test early. We had an example of that in our article. You know, gee, I thought you needed more time. Well, yikes, this person was kind of, called out in public. And so we want to avoid that kind of thing because we want to not lessen the opportunity that students have to either ask for the accommodations to begin with or to feel free to ask for them differently, slightly differently, but within the range of what the ODC has allowed. Another caution is that instructors sometimes ask about undisclosed disabilities. So the student does not have a card or a note from ODC, but the instructor suspects that there might be some kind of disability, and the instructor asks, do you have a learning disability, let's say, or some other issue, or I noticed that. Well, we're not allowed to do that. So we have to be careful of that. That's another problem in the area of formal accommodations. We want to accommodate, and in our eagerness to do that accommodation, we kind of overstep our bounds a little bit. So one of the solutions that we talk about in our article is to observe the students carefully, find out areas where the students might need individual help, try to have instructors avoid a disability-centered kind of focus on accommodation, but instead create or develop environments, learning environments that will accommodate everybody's needs. So if we think about accommodating everybody's needs, the students in those environments who need the help will be helped.
Thank you for this discussion. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tricia.
If you would like to read Dr. Angell's article, the full citation is Quinlan, Bates, and Angell, 2012. What Can I Do to Help? Post-Secondary Students with Learning Disabilities Perceptions of Instructors' Classroom Accommodations. Published in the Journal of Research and Special Educational Needs, Volume 5, Number 1, pages 1 through 10. The citation can also be found at the college website, coe.ilstu.edu/research/podcasts. Good day, and please join us again for future research breaks.
This podcast is sponsored by Illinois State University's College of Education, where we strive to assure that all students realize the democratic ideal through our teaching, research, and service to the field of education.